If you spend a lot of time sat at your desk or in a car or just traveling around in general and you struggle with a little bit of lower back pain, it could be that the back's not actually the problem. It could be your hips. So the body tries to get really efficient at being sat for those kind of long periods of time. So what it does is it tightens up some of the muscles on the front of the body, specifically the hip flexors. And as a result, then that restricts the motion through the hips. Now, hips are generally built to be quite mobile. So you could think that you've got hip flexion where the leg would lift up in front of you, the leg would go out to the side with the abduction, it will come back in. And you've got this internal and external rotation of the joint that I'm sure you'll have seen various instances of in sport or movement in general. Certainly if you've ever been to a yoga class or Pilates, there's a lot of that sort of movement in there. So if you start to lose some of that motion, what happens is that the body still needs to find that movement from somewhere else. And so next up on its hit list is the lower back. So instead of getting all this movement happening through the hip, it tries to use the range of motion around the spine to compensate for that. And as a result, the back gets a little bit grumpy. I say, if you imagine you had three people working at a desk with a certain amount of work to do, and all of a sudden one of them decided that they didn't want to do it, then they just shuffle all their work over to somebody else. That person's probably not going to be that happy. And that can be your lower back. It's not the best, not the best thing to happen. So it's really important that if you are sat for a long period of time, take some time either afterwards or try and break up that sitting session. Get some movement through the hips, go for a walk, spend 5 minutes, do a little bit of yoga, Pilates, strength training. Change the positions that your hips are in frequently, and then they shouldn't stiffen up so much, and it should help with the function of all the muscles around. And you might find that without doing anything else, that helps your back pain. If you find that you're having lots of grumbles with your rotator cuff in the shoulders, there's a few things you need to look at to help get to the bottom of it. So first of all, your resting shoulder position. So most people in everyday life now, we sit a little bit protracted. So what I mean by that is if I spin around, you'll find that the shoulder head will sit slightly forwards here, and that in turn brings the shoulder blade slightly around the side of the body, and you get this little bit of a tip through the shoulder as well. And so what that does is it puts the rotator cuff into a suboptimal position. So that means that when you try and use your shoulder, instead of it having this kind of nice easy job to lift it in a certain way, it just makes it that little bit harder to engage the muscle, for the muscle to work really effectively. And as a result, then it gets a little bit grumbly, it gets overloaded, and then you get sprains, tears, just aches and pains. So really, it's all about trying to bring this kind of natural position back into the body. So if you think you spend a lot of time sat at your desk in a car, what you want to think about doing: collarbones up, eyes on the horizon, shoulders relaxed. Very simple postural cue that you can do various times throughout the day. Not expecting you to hold it like that, but crucially, it doesn't use a lot of energy of force trying to squeeze muscles into position. You're just thinking about pure skeletal alignment. So it's collarbones up, eyes on the horizon, shoulders relaxed. And that goes a long way just to allow things to settle slightly. And then what you want to do is start to address some of the areas that might be a little bit tight. So think pectoral muscles, specifically pec minor, which kind of sits underneath the big pec. You can think about this kind of classic door frame stretch where you have the arm out against the door frame, you put a little bit of pressure and this kind of slight twist through the body, and that just puts that stretch across the shoulder joint. And with that one, what I like to do is just bend the knees and you drop down slightly. So it just brings that bit of angle into the shoulder, which then starts to hit those fibers just that little bit better. And so again, then you straighten the legs, you bring it back up and just drop the body into it. And that just brings that nice bit of movement through the pec just to start to loosen it up a little bit. Again, you can do arms out to the side, just little pulses, literally straight behind you, making sure the hand comes behind the line of the body. And you can change all the angles, so you can do one hand slightly higher, one hand slightly lower. I quite like as well, lower trapezius tends to be a little bit lazy. So we go hands down in this kind of arrowhead position, and you just start to take the hands back. Lifting, lowering. You can do it lying on your front. You can do it again seated at the desk. People might think you look a bit weird, but it's just loosening the shoulders up a little bit. And you should find that starts to help reset this resting posture through the shoulders. And then when you go to strengthen your rotator cuff with some of the strength work, they shouldn't get quite so grumbly.